All right, we are present on 24-1-130234 and 24-1-132534, State versus Ali. Ms. Stone and Ms. Zoe are present on behalf of the state. Mr. Kading is present with Mr. Ali, representing Mr. Ali, and Mr. Leary is present with Mrs. Ali and Mrs. Ali. We are before the court on a continuation of trial. This morning, I received Mr. Leary's proposed jury instructions, and so I have those, and Mr. Leary handed me my bench copy because I was out here, and that he had emailed it to my judicial assistant, who has since forwarded it to me. And Ms. Stone, you have received those instructions as well?
That's correct, yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Kading, you indicated that you might have some additional instructions to offer to the court as well, and I just wanted to inquire on that.
Your Honor, I'm still working on those.
All right, so tomorrow?
Hopefully. Although I am going to say that I did receive a new instruction from the government late yesterday, so I'm still in the process of putting this together.
All right. Ms. Stone?
That's correct, Your Honor. That's the instruction that the state indicated, I don't recall what day last week. Last week, it might have been Thursday, late Wednesday, sometime on Thursday maybe, as to the exchange between 3508 and 3504 WIPIC, consistent with the information charged in Mr. Ali's case. So we did provide that yesterday to defense counsel. I don't think it's in the right format for the court, so we have to fix the formatting for the court. That's all.
All right, and so when will it be provided to me?
This afternoon, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right. And I would just indicate that on Friday, I have, I did put together the start of the draft instructions, using what I had from the state and what I had from Mr. Kading. I identified just my own notes, what I thought was missing. And I will be working on adding Mr. Leary's proposed instructions as well, so that hopefully once I receive the other proposed instructions that people know they're offering as we sit here now, that I can at least get those instructions in a draft format. What I never like to see is when I have provided the draft instructions to the parties the day before we're going to talk about them and no one has looked at them. And so they're reading the instructions instead of us being able to go to the places in the instructions where there is an objection by anyone or exception. That's the most efficient way for us ultimately to address the jury instructions. Ms. Stone, any preliminary issues before we get started?
I think just to forecast to the court, the state has Dr. Kim this morning, and then Officer Chavez. Ms. Zoe is doing Dr. Kim, then we're doing Officer Chavez. The state has Officer Bell here as well to testify this morning. I indicated to Mr. Leary and Mr. Kading yesterday that the state intends to introduce some portions of Officer Bell's body camera. There was a discussion, very short discussion late last night about an objection to that. There was some conversation this morning based on the case law associated with that. I think the objection as to the admission of the body camera itself as a whole, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Leary, but my understanding is that objection itself is withdrawn, but he may have objections to certain portions of that body camera. So I anticipate that the parties are likely following Officer Chavez to ask for a break to see if that is something we can resolve between the parties prior to Officer Bell testifying. I can tell the court we have taken Sergeant Newcomb off of the list for today. So following Officer Bell, we have Officer Howard and then Dr. Gilbert, and those are the state's witnesses for today.
And you anticipate Dr. Gilbert this afternoon still?
Yes, Your Honor.
At 1:30?
Yes, Your Honor.
Or is close there too?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And who is doing the exam of Officer Chavez?
I'm doing Officer Chavez and Officer Bell. And Ms. Zoe has the remainder of the witnesses for the day.
All right. Mr. Larry?
Just to kind of complete the record, Your Honor, so I did provide a case and a statute to the state where it appeared to me that the requirements of the statute weren't complied with, thus making the body-worn video inadmissible. I was provided with an unpublished case that I had not seen this morning that I think runs contrary to my argument, so I'm not making that argument. However, I did not communicate with the state about issues in the section that they're playing because I didn't think it was going to be admissible. So we are going to talk on break about concerns that I have, see if we are in agreement for editing, and if not, we'll bring it to the court. I would have done it beforehand, but I didn't think it was coming in at all. So, but now I'm not making that argument.
All right. Thank you for that information as well. After we conclude with Dr. Kim and Officer Chavez, I will take a recess and we'll address those issues. And if the parties are unable to reach an agreement about what that video exhibit is going to look like, then I will hear argument.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Kading, do you have any preliminary issues before we bring the jury in?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Leary, that was something the state raised, which was also one of your preliminary issues. Do you have any others?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please bring the jury in. And you can have your witness come in, please. Please be seated. Good morning, members of the jury, and welcome back. We hope you had a good weekend and a good Friday since we were not here on Friday. We will continue with the presentation of evidence at this time. Ms. Zoe, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would like to call Dr. Kim.
Dr. Kim, come forward, please. I'm going to place you under oath. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be true and correct?
Yes.
Please be seated.
Thank you.
Ms. Zoe, you may inquire when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you. I'm doing well.
And Dr. Kim, if you could, the microphone can, you can adjust it, and then you can also move your seat closer to the microphone. And just speak into the microphone, but leave about 4 to 5 inches between yourself and the microphone.
Okay, great.
If you could please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Sure, my name is Sung Won Kim. Kim is spelled K-I-M.
What is your occupation?
I'm an otolaryngologist.
Okay, and what is a otolaryngologist?
An otolaryngologist is physician that practices head and neck surgery.
Okay, and where is your place of employment?
I practice in Olympia, Washington. Do you need the address?
No, what, do you practice at a specific medical facility?
Yeah, I'm actually in a private practice. I work at ENT Associates in Olympia. I am affiliated with Providence St. Peter's Hospital.
Okay. And what do you mean by you're affiliated with Providence St. Peter's Hospital?
That means that the hospital grants me privileges to practice medicine and perform surgeries at that institution.
Okay. What is your education background?
I went to college at UC Berkeley, and then I got a master's degree at Georgetown University. I got my medical degree at George Washington University. Do you need specific dates?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. How long have you been a otolaryngologist?
Including residency, I would be at my 18th year now.
Okay. When you say including residency, Dr. Kim, what do you mean by residency?
Residency is the 5 years of training that I had to do before I could practice on my own.
Okay. And residency, does that, I take it comes after graduation from school?
Good question, yes. So I went to 5 years of residency at the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, Wisconsin,
Okay.
for 5 years to train to do what I do now.
Okay. And what are some of your responsibilities as a otolaryngologist?
Well, I practice general head and neck surgery, which means for the most part I do ear tubes for children, tonsillectomies. I'm also the primary head and neck surgeon. Specifically, I do thyroid surgeries and other endocrine surgeries around the throat, as well as cancers of the tongue, tonsil, voice box, everything clavicle and up except for the brain.
Okay. And as part of your responsibilities as a otolaryngologist, you mentioned you're also associated with Providence St. Peter's Hospital. Do you also get called to examine patients who have been, say, admitted to the emergency department at Providence?
Yes, that's part of my conditions for having privileges at St. Peter's Hospital is for me to be able to take call. I take call on average about every 5 weeks for a week at a time.
Okay. And as part of your responsibilities, do you sometimes review CT angiogram scans or x-rays that are done on patients that have been admitted to the emergency department at Providence?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's the purpose of reviewing CT scans or x-rays?
Any kind of diagnostic imaging is to help us find out what the underlying cause of the disease process is and to hopefully eliminate, if not improve, the outcomes.
Okay. And back in October of 2024, did you review scans that was done on a patient by the name of Fatima Ali?
Yes, I did.
And why were you asked to review the, well, let me ask you this question. Who asked you to review the CT angiogram scans?
I don't recall, but it was one of the emergency department physicians that called me and asked me to review the scans as there were what he described as abnormalities that he wanted me to take a look at.
Okay. When you say abnormalities, what do you mean by abnormalities?
He gave me a quick story about a young patient who had a traumatic event to her neck. Specifically, I believe he called it a strangulation event. And there was free air, that means air underneath the skin, that was tracking along the trachea and into and around the superior mediastinum.
Okay. And did you in fact review these scans that was done on Fatima Ali?
Yes.
Okay. And what, if any, diagnosis were you able to provide after reviewing the scans?
It was clear that the patient had paratracheal air or subcutaneous air around her trachea that extended down towards her superior mediastinum, and I said as much. I also confirmed, the radiologist read about this. I also confirmed that there wasn't any vascular injury, which is what we worry often with strangulation injuries. And I specifically said that the amount of air, again, if I remember correctly, I specifically said the amount of air in her neck was not a large amount.
Okay. And then you indicated there was air in the, I believe you said paratracheal. Was that on the left side or the right side?
I gotta be honest, I don't recall 100%, but I believe it's in the right.
Could it have been in the left side?
It could have been, absolutely,
Okay.
but I don't recall.
Okay. And what is the paratracheal space?
So the trachea is your windpipe here. Para means next to, so it's the space around, it's a potential space around your trachea, which is your windpipe here.
Okay.
And the witness is demonstrating on his own neck as he was describing that last testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Dr. Kim, have you heard of the term subcutaneous emphysema?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what is subcutaneous emphysema?
Subcutaneous emphysema is having air underneath the skin in places where it generally is not found.
Okay. And in this case for Miss Ali, you indicated there was a free air in the tracheal space. Was the air in the free air in the tracheal space underneath the skin?
Absolutely.
Okay. And based on your training experience, can subcutaneous emphysema be dangerous?
Yes.
And how can it be dangerous?
It can be very dangerous if you develop what we call tension pneumothorax or tension pneumomediastinum. The tension portion means that whatever caused the air to go underneath the skin or around the tissues where it doesn't belong can continue putting air into that region without it being able to be released. So the air can continue building up and building up inside the chest or the neck until it squeezes vital structure so that you stop working.
Okay.
I would just indicate that the witness is again using his hands to demonstrate what he is verbally providing in his testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Dr. Kim, what is the, you mentioned the word mediastinum many times now. What is mediastinum?
Okay. I'm not a cardiothoracic surgeon, and I don't generally operate in this region, but the mediastinum is the area around your heart, specifically involving the great vessels of your heart, as well as the trachea, and superiorly on the top, as well as the airways that go into your lungs, called the bronchi, or the
Okay.
bronchus for one.
And for the record, Dr. Kim, as you were explaining what mediastinum was, you were demonstrating with your own body.
I was. Do you not want me to do that? Is that easier?
Well, I'm not going to tell you how to testify. We just have to describe what's happening in the courtroom so that the written record will reflect what's happening.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
And Dr. Kim, was Miss Ali also diagnosed with pneumomediastinum?
She was.
Okay, and what is pneumomediastinum?
Pneumomediastinum is when air is around and in the mediastinum where it generally does not belong.
Okay. And with regards to pneumomediastinum, can that be dangerous as well?
Absolutely.
And how can it be dangerous?
Specifically, the tension portion of it, of whether or not the air continues to build up and it has no ability to be released.
Okay.
So if there is enough air inside and around the pneumomediastinum, it can squeeze in the great vessels as well as the airway, such that it will stop being able to conduct airflow through, as well as being able to push blood through the great vessels.
Okay. And when you say great vessels, what do you mean by great vessels?
The aorta, which is the major blood vessel that comes out of the heart that feeds all of your body, including your brain, as well as the pulmonary artery, the pulmonary vein. These are all blood vessels that allow blood to return from the lungs into the heart, so that we get proper oxygenation.
Okay. And for the record, you were.
Sorry, yes, I was.
It's okay. You're demonstrating with your own body as well again.
Yeah.
You indicated, you testified, Dr. Kim, that pneumomediastinum can be dangerous due to tension placed on the great vessels.
Yes.
For the great vessels to work normally and properly, is it fair to say that there should not be tension placed on them?
Absolutely. I want to be clear though, I'm not a cardiac thoracic surgeon. This is not specifically my specialty. However, I did go to medical school, and it's very clear that avoiding tension and pressure along the aorta is more compatible with life than without.
Okay. And then with regards to the your diagnosis, where you indicated that Miss Ali had air in her left tracheal space, can strangulation cause air to be present in the left tracheal space?
Yes. Well, so many things can cause pneumomediastinum. It can happen spontaneously. Generally happens more to like thin, tall men in their 20s and 30s. But it can happen even during childbirth if you're straining hard enough, let's say, or trauma,
Okay.
which I believe is what happened here.
Okay.
If you put enough force that prevents air from escaping, then you can expel air from the windpipe or some other part of the airway into the mediastinum.
Okay. You indicated if you put enough force to prevent air from escaping. Force on where?
So generally for strangulation injuries, is generally around the neck, preventing the airflow from coming out. That way it causes increased intrathoracic pressure, and sometimes that pressure goes out at the area of least resistance.
Okay. And the area of least resistance, where would that be?
So I don't know. I didn't look, but it's likely going to be the trachea. In between what's called the tracheal rings, likely is what would happen.
Okay.
But
Also, in the last response, before what the doctor just testified to, he was again using himself to explain his testimony.
And Dr. Kim, you indicated that you did not look. When you say you did not look, do you mean in this case you did not do a further examination of Miss Ali?
That's true. I did not do a further examination of Miss Ali, but the looking that I had to do required an operative management. That means I would have to take her to the operating room, put her to sleep, and put a camera into her throat, into her mouth and throat, and look into her trachea with what's called a rigid bronchoscope.
Okay. And with regards to and I'm going to ask you some more questions about that in a moment, but you testified that she had basically free air in the left paratracheal space. What is the let me ask you a different question. What is the aerodigestive tract?
The aerodigestive tract is, so it specifically addresses your mouth that goes all the way down. So the digestive tract goes from your mouth all the way down into your stomach, from what I deal with. So it's your mouth, your pharynx, which is your throat, your larynx, which is your voice box, and then down into your esophagus. That's the digestive portion of it. The aero portion of it is your nose, your mouth, your pharynx, which is, so this, it's shared, that's why we call it air digestive. And then it goes into your larynx, in between your vocal cords, in your larynx, and down into your trachea.
Okay. And again, for the record, you were demonstrating the explanation of aerodigestive tract with pointing to different parts of your own body.
Yes.
And based on your training experience, can a tear in the aerodigestive tract cause the free air that was present in the left paratracheal space for Ms. Ali?
Absolutely.
Okay, and you talked earlier about sort of when there's air building up, it sort of just ends up going out in the portion of the body that's least resistant, that's of least resistance. With regards to when you say the least resistance, do you mean sort of the aerodigestive tract for a tear to develop?
Yes.
Okay. And based on your training experience, can strangulation cause a tear in the aerodigestive tract?
Absolutely.
And how does that happen?
So there's multiple ways that occurs. Generally, the way I've seen it most is the strangulation causes a fracture of what's called the hyoid bone up here.
Okay.
That is a free-floating bone that's above your voice box. Again, I'm pointing to my body to show you guys where things are. This hyoid bone, when it fractures, it can tear and cause a tract to form between your throat and into and around your subcutaneous tissue, specifically along your larynx and your trachea.
Okay. Besides a fracture to the hyoid bone, are there other ways that strangulation can cause a tear in the aerodigestive tract?
Mm-hmm. Just like when you strain hard enough during labor, it can cause you to tear a part of your trachea enough that you blow air through and down around your paratracheal space into your mediastinum. The same thing can occur if you are have an extrinsic force that pushes on the trachea hard enough that if you build up enough intrathoracic pressure, you can also tear a part of your aerodigestive tract in that way.
Okay. And the building up of the pressure, is that in essence when somebody is in the process of is that in essence when external forces press on your trachea, you're struggling to breathe?
Yes.
Okay. And in this case, what is the best way to determine whether Ms. Ali in fact had a tear in the aerodigestive tract?
Well, there are a couple ways. I mean, there's multiple ways. We discussed one already, which is I could have taken her to the operating room, put her to sleep, and taken a look inside of her trachea specifically. And I could have also looked in her esophagus with something called an esophagoscope. That's an option. We decided, well, I can talk about that later, but that's an option. That's option number one. Option number two is you could get a study called a swallow study or a barium swallow study. We wouldn't use barium per se. We would use another medium called gastrographin, which is much less irritating along the mediastinum. The thing we worry about for potential violation of the mediastinal space is that we can put more stuff inside of it that can cause her to have a terrible infection.
Okay.
So, and the last study is really getting what's called a CT scan of the chest. All of these, and there may be more that I don't know about, but those are the ones I know about.
Okay. And with regards to sort of doing, I want to talk to you first about option number two, doing the swallow study. Why did you perform that in this case?
No, none of the three things I discussed were not performed. We're not performed. The reason why we decided against performing a gastrographin study is that, or the swallow study, excuse me, with gastrographin. The reason why we decided against performing that specific procedure is one, is that it's a lot of radiation. So it's essentially, the study is performed by you sitting in front of an x-ray machine and you swallow a bunch of gas or graphene. And then we watch it with with essentially an x-ray machine. It looks like a movie. You can actually see it as it goes down and see if it leaks out into her chest or mediastinum.
Okay.
And one of the big reasons why I didn't want to do that was because the amount of free air that was inside of her paratracheal space and mediastinum was not very much. I would call it a mild amount of air. I, number one, anticipate this will likely get better on its own with conservative management. And number two, I did not want to irradiate a 17-year-old female, as it may, although unlikely, may increase her risk of developing cancer in the future.
Okay. And what about the first option, which you indicated taking her to the operating room and putting a scope?
Okay, that's a great question. Again, it's trying to, just because we can do something, we generally just don't do it. In this case, the risk benefit of that would have been high. Specifically, the active intubation alone, where we put a tube down the throat into the airway so that we can see whether or not she has a tear inside of her trachea, may make things worse, because we'd be blowing more air and increasing intrathoracic pressure in an area that I was concerned already has a small tear.
Okay.
So looking would have given us a good answer, but it could have made a condition tremendously worse and put her life at danger. If there was something that we could have done about it, that would be more a more reasonable plan of action. But given that in most cases, even if we find the tear, we don't repair it generally. We allow it to repair on its own.
Okay. And with regards to, if I'm understanding you correctly, if there was in fact, whichever of the three options you testified about, if you had in fact pursued one of the options, even if you had confirmed that she had a tear in her aerodigestive tract, the solution would have been just sort of, I don't want to call it a wait and see game, but sort of wait and see and have the tear heal on its own.
Yeah. Yes, I believe doctors call that watchful waiting.
Okay. All right.
We were watchfully waiting. My great concern for her was whether or not she would have fevers overnight, chest pain, or shortness of breath. If that was the case, then we would call the cardiothoracic surgeons and have them emergently place chest tubes into her chest to relieve her of any fluid and or air from her chest.
Okay. And with regards to the concerns that you had developing a fever, shortness of breath, are those symptoms of tension pneumomediastinum?
So the fever portion is actually mediastinitis, which is a different process. So although I wasn't very concerned about this, there was a chance that her esophagus had torn a little bit. And then if saliva from her mouth as she's swallowing gets into her mediastinum, then she could develop problems with chest pain and fevers. And that could cause her, then I would be very, very anxious that she would have a very serious and potentially life-threatening problem.
Okay. And with regards to, you testify earlier, doctors call it watchful waiting.
Yes.
In this case, was watchful waiting done in Fatima's case?
Watchful waiting was done in Fatima's case.
Okay. And did you put her on any restrictions, though, after you reviewed her CT angiogram scans?
Specifically, I asked the pediatrician to have her not eat or drink anything when I saw the CT scan. The reason why I asked the pediatrician not to have her eat or drink anything was, one, although my concern was low that she had a tear in her esophagus, I didn't want to make that worse by having her eat a hamburger, let's say, and getting a piece of bread or some type of food particle stuck inside of her mediastinum. Number two, that if she got worse, that if she required urgent operative management, that we wouldn't have to worry about her having food or water or anything else inside of her stomach for us to do a surgical procedure.
Okay. And just to, just want to make sure I understand your testimony. You indicated in this case that she had free air in the left paratracheal space. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and no procedures was done because you were, as you testified, watchful waiting. You were doing watchful waiting.
Yes.
And despite doing watchful waiting, you still had the concern that she could develop mediastinitis. Yes, mediastinitis or tension pneumomediastinum.
Yes, absolutely.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kading, cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, sir.
So you said that pneumomediastinum is not something you generally deal with? Is that
That
what
is
I heard you
correct.
say? Okay. And you know that it can be caused by several different things.
I do.
Okay. For example, blunt force trauma,
Blunt force trauma is one of them.
having weight put on your body,
Having weight put on your body is, yes, it's possible.
right? And then we get into things like Macklin effect and all of that. And that's from medical school. You remember those things?
Yeah,
Okay.
Macklin effect is, yes,
Okay. I was just curious if you're aware of all of the ways it can be caused.
yes.
Okay.
Macklin effect, may I?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Macklin effect, generally you can see air along the, like the peribronchial vascular structures. The CT scan did go down to the superior mediastinum, but I don't recall it evaluating her entire chest. I don't believe it did. Again, this is a while ago. It generally does not, and I don't recall if there was air along her peribronchial space there.
Okay. And so, just to be clear too, when you're dealing with pneumomediastinum, you're not always entirely sure what causes it, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And so the wait and see attitude you take is to kind of see if it's something that's ongoing or something that may resolve quickly on its own.
Yes,
Okay. And so in this case, you saw the air, you said, let's take a look and see what happens.
yes,
Okay.
watchful waiting.
All right, and so there was no indication of any, well, by the next morning it had resolved, right?
By x-ray it had, yes.
Okay, which was at 8:39 in the morning, something to that effect?
I'm not sure. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
but sometime the next morning it had already resolved,
Yes.
which means all the air was gone from inside there.
The modality of diagnostic imaging that they chose was a chest x-ray, which is reasonable given her age, and you don't want to get a CT scan of the chest given the amount of radiation that she had. The gross air on chest x-ray, you're looking for dramatic worsening, which I did not see. Chest x-rays are much harder to find minute amounts of air, so a CT scan would be more appropriate for that. I cannot say if it all resolved based on the chest x-ray, but I would say that it was better on
Okay.
chest x-ray.
And so when something is getting better, that typically means in this case that maybe tension pneumomediastinum is probably no longer a major concern, right?
That is very true, yes.
Very true, because that means that there's not a structure that's leaking air continually into the chest cavity,
Yes,
right? Okay,
well said.
all right. Now, typically in a case like this where it's something that, we'll say, resolves quickly, is there any lasting effect from the incident of pneumomediastinum?
Generally, I'm struggling with this question because I'm not an expert in pneumomediastinum. I would say that I don't know what the answer is, but I would anticipate that it's likely, no, you
Okay.
won't have long-term effects.
Perfect. Okay, and again, just to clarify, the lack of food and water was for two purposes, essentially. One we don't want to make things worse by getting a piece of hamburger stuck in there,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And two, if there is a problem that we're not seeing right now, we want to be able to immediately address it, right?
I was looking for specific worsening, and so to clarify, yes, if she was worsening all of a sudden, then she would need immediate attention, yes.
Okay. And so in this case, where we have a beginning of pneumomediastinum, we have the air in the lungs, it's possible that it resolves the next day.
Yes.
It's also possible it could get worse.
Yes.
And in this case, it did not get worse, right?
It did not get worse
Okay.
based on the chest x-ray the following morning.
All right. Okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Leary, cross-examination.
Good morning, Dr. Kim.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. I mean, I assume that it's every doctor's dream to come in and testify,
No,
right?
this is actually pretty terrifying and horrifying to me, so thanks for saying that.
Well, I really appreciate your honesty, and I'm sure it can be horrifying for many people.
Oh, yeah.
But this shouldn't be too bad. So, okay. So, at the start of direct, you testified that you didn't see vascular injury. Did I hear that
Yes.
correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said that vascular injury is a common result of strangulation cases. Is that? Did you say that?
I want to. The answer is I did say that.
Okay.
So it's not very common, but it's what we look for because it's dangerous.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. May I?
Absolutely.
Okay. The amount of force it takes to restrict, and this is an area that I'm actually expert at, the amount of force it actually takes for you to choke somebody to prevent venous flow, that means blood from your brain going back into your heart, is not very much, about 4 pounds per square inch or so. The carotid artery is a little bit higher, so preventing blood from going from your heart up to your brain is a little bit higher. And if I remember correctly, I want to say it's about 11 pounds per square inch or so. That's about a really firm handshake you can get around the neck.
Okay.
Sometimes the amount of force it takes for you to strangle somebody and even break the hyoid bone is so much that it causes carotid injury. Specifically because of that, the emergency department has, and I did use my hand to demonstrate what part of the neck I was talking about. The emergency department has a protocol for strangulation injuries to look specifically for carotid injury specifically, as it can cause terrible problems with neurovascular damage. You know, it'll look like a stroke sometimes. You can have carotid blowout, all these other terrible things that can occur. I did not see that on the CT angiogram.
Okay. So what you did see was this loose air,
Yes.
correct? And that was the only thing that you saw that was of significance to you in this case, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's why you were called in?
Yes, sir.
And so what we're talking about is, as you described, free air inside. And your chest is a closed universe, correct?
Yes.
All right. So there's no release valve,
No, there is not.
or at least not a very effective one. Fair?
Yeah, over time it'll slowly absorb,
Okay.
but yes, there's no obvious release valve.
Okay, and so you talked about it's dangerous if it develops tension in various parts of your chest and your neck area, correct?
Mhm, that's correct.
And that is because it's kind of a one-way, so if there's a tear and it's an open tear, that air is then going in and pressure is building, correct?
That is correct.
And your body doesn't have the ability to actively, quickly release that air.
Exactly.
Okay.
Generally, the rate of absorption is much slower than how quickly you can build up the air inside.
Okay,
there.
and so we didn't, in this case, see any of that ongoing buildup of air, fair?
That is fair.
Okay.
May I expound on that?
Sure.
The CT scan was done, I believe, a few hours afterwards.
Okay.
The amount of air I saw wasn't great. There wasn't a lot of air inside of her.
So let me interrupt. So when you say wasn't great,
So,
what does that mean? Like danger, or not
Right.
a great amount?
it wasn't that it was a small amount of air,
Okay.
right? So when I do neck surgeries, I can cause pneumomediastinum, okay? Just because I open up the neck, I'm operating along the trachea and such, right? When I see that on a chest x-ray or a CT scan the following day, I'm not generally worried about it because I know that there's no more air going inside the body, right? So for her, I thought, well, she may be already absorbing some of this. And that's the reason why we're seeing definitely air, but not a large amount. I was a lot less worried about tension pneumomediastinum at this point.
Okay. And so we talked about kind of things that can go wrong, right? And that's why you're watching her, correct?
Mhm.
Why she was admitted,
Just have to have a verbal
Sorry.
response.
Sorry. Yes.
and that's why she was admitted overnight, correct?
Yes.
And what you then talked about is just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so the watchful waiting in the morning, if you had seen fever, chest pain, shortness of breath, you then go to we're gonna take those additional steps to research it, correct?
Very good. Yes.
Okay. I was trying to pay attention. So I mean, there's no need to scope. I mean, if it's going to resolve on its own, we don't need to scope,
Right.
correct? We don't need to do the swallow study,
Right.
and we don't need to do a CT scan of the chest,
No.
correct? Because of the amount of air, correct?
Yes.
And she wasn't showing signs of further distress.
Right.
Okay.
She was asymptomatic at this point, from what I understood.
Okay. All right. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Zoe, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Kim, when Mr. Kading, the first defense attorney that asked you some questions on cross-examination, he asked you about the different other possible ways that can cause pneumomediastinum. Do you remember that line of questioning?
I do.
Okay, and I believe one of the things he mentioned was that, in essence, having pressure placed on you, like on your chest, could in fact cause pneumomediastinum.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. Based on your training experience, in a situation, if somebody is, for whatever reason, holding their breath, and all of a sudden sudden pressure is being placed on their chest, can that cause pneumomediastinum?
From what I've read, that it can, yes. So any kind of chest trauma.
Okay.
So a sudden force to the chest can cause pneumomediastinum, yes.
Okay, and for the sudden force to the chest to cause pneumomediastinum, in the situation where the person is holding their breath, for pneumomediastinum to occur, does it require the person to, essence, still be holding in their breath when the sudden pressure is being placed on their chest?
If there's no, the answer is probably yes.
Okay.
I haven't seen studies on that, but the way it occurs is that the glottis is your vocal cords and your larynx. Again, I'm pointing to my body. And when it shuts, that allows you to, that prevents any kind of air from escaping your lungs. If you hit your chest hard enough at that point, you're going to increase the intrathoracic pressure, and without this release valve opening up, the air sometimes has to go somewhere, and it can pick a weak area, an area of least resistance, if you will.
Okay. The release valve you're talking about, based on your training experience, for most people, would the release valve in essence open up unless there was something else that was causing it to be shut?
Yeah, it should open.
Okay. And so based on your training experience, the release valve you're talking about, if somebody was holding onto their breath, is it fair to say that they would, in essence, release and exhale once the sudden pressure ends up being applied to their chest?
Yes.
Okay. And on October 18th of 2024, when you first reviewed the scans that was done on Ms. Ali, you testified that the next day you didn't have any concerns due to the fact there was the presence of free air was, in essence, had disappeared. But on October 18th, at that time, when you first reviewed the scans, did you still have the concern, did you in fact have the concern that she could develop tension pneumomediastinum?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I thought that she didn't have any chance of something life-threatening happen to her, I would have said you can just discharge her home. But I was absolutely concerned for a potential life-threatening tension pneumomediastinum, yes.
Okay, and then what about the concern for mediastinitis? I believe that was the correct pronunciation? Okay.
Yes, yes,
I
it
finally
is.
got it right. Was that also a concern on October 18th when you first reviewed her scans?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
I specifically that's one of the big reasons why I recommended not to eat or drink anything until the following morning.
okay. And you indicated that the following day, when you saw the, in essence, free air had disappeared from her aerodigestive tract and then also from her mediastinum, that was the next day after reviewing the subsequent scans, is that right?
That is correct. I want to be clear. The free air, she probably still had a little bit there.
Okay,
The chest x-ray is not specific enough, sensitive enough to detect really minute amounts of air. So when you say disappeared, it makes me a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
It probably didn't disappear. It was probably just much less.
okay. But on October 18th, when you first reviewed her scans, did you at that time in fact have the concern that she was possibly still leaking air?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions.
Mr. Kading, recross.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, you twice have mentioned the hyoid bone in your testimony, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's a small bone in your throat?
It's above your larynx. I'm again pointing. This is your voice box here. Men generally have Adam's apples. It's just above that. It's a free-floating bone, one of the few free-floating bones you have.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like the letter C. And it just floats, connecting some of what's called your strap muscles that allows you to swallow better.
Okay, and I believe you said that sometimes gets broken during a strangulation event?
Yes, sir.
Was not broken in this case?
It was not broken in this case.
And you said it took how much force? 11 pounds of force was it?
11 pounds, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember the exact number, but I believe it's 11 pounds per square inch.
Okay, all right, but only 4 pounds per square inch to cut off the blood flow?
For the venous return, that means the blood flow from the brain returning back to the heart,
Okay,
which again is a little less than a firm handshake.
okay. All right, thank you.